I didn't want to be pigeonholed as an artist myself, but I never really pigeonholed my palette as to the inspirations that I let in. Trying to find the best way to convey a message that I want to share with the people, mostly by looking at the people who have done it before me.
Yeah, what is it with everybody right now? Like, pulling out left, right. Nah, that's a shirt.
What's this tune, man? What's this tune?
This is Golden Years by Loose Ends from their So Well You Now album. Love Loose Ends. I'm actually sharing the bill on a festival and playing with them in a couple of months, so excited about that. Might get to meet Carl McIntosh himself. Definitely sending a picture in the family group chat when I do. If I do, that is. This is gonna be long. There we go. Okay.
What kind of music do you feel like this rain's making you want to make to the
And what kind of music? I don't even know. I didn't even know I was making music today, to be honest. Cause this should be really my shorts today before today, man. So if you about to hit me up with these questions, maybe work with some music, maybe show you a few things on some instruments. There aren't really too many. Actually, no, there's a few things you could like mess around with. Just give you some insight into my life, what I got going on, and what I hope to share with you in the future.
Where you at?
Alright, cool. So, welcome to the lab, the bedroom, where the magic happens, whatever you want to call it. It's just that little space that I've had since, I want to say, about 14 or 15, Made a little haven out of it, keep all of my music in here. I'm an avid reader. Still not all of the books. I recently had my room renovated, which is why I haven't got a bed at the minute. I guess we'll show you later. It's got my books up here, collection of CDs, some I bought myself, some I've inherited from like family members. I can show you actually the first CD I ever bought, Red Hot Chili Peppers' Greatest Hits. I must have been probably about 4 years old. Woolworths, Wolf and Cross, had it on special offer for £3. Changed my life. I remember I borrowed it from the library before I bought it, just to get a feel for the tunes, like those classics like Under the Bridge, Californication, and then I was finally able to buy it. So I remember that being a highlight for me. Also here, got a drum machine. Got this when I was about 15 or 16. Pretty much made all of my beats on here, so most of the stuff that you've heard from me that I produced, it's all come from this one machine. Hook it up to my computer, score all the sounds, load up samples in there, and then a few years later, when there seems to be a pattern of me buying from shops that have now closed down. At first it was not W. Smith, Woolworths with the CDs. Now Maplin with this mini L.P.C 25 key keyboard. There was Maplin in town. They were closing down. They used to sell like little music stuff, and I needed a mini keyboard, and I kept on going in there every single day, just like, looking to get this mini keyboard. They didn't have any in the stock, so it's like, come back, the next day and we might be able to sort something out. Came back, give it a few more days. Then I finally went in there, and slightly damaged, some of these, I don't even know what these are called, I guess the rests or whatever that keep it, stop it from slipping, were kind of missing because it was a display model. So they gave me a mad discount, and I just remember going into, the sixth form house telling my friends, listen, the melodies and bass lines about to cook up with this, about to fuck you up. Just being all hyperactive with it, but it served me well over the years. I do have a larger keyboard, but served me out a lot. At times I've even had to with these stubby fingers, create chord patterns with it, but it's done what it's needed to do. well, I guess suppose it will sound rather cliche, but this fascination with music has always been, or this passion rather, it's definitely been like a lifelong thing of mine. You know, I've always been surrounded by music, different styles, genres of music, and I've just always been enamored by the way it's able to connect people and you know, just make that bit of life, that hour, that minute, that day, what have you, just that little moment in life better. For me, that first experience, let alone my first musical memory, probably my first memory period, was one of my earliest memories. And touching on that, I don't even know if I want to push the boat out too much by saying it was my first day at nursery, but it was definitely one of the earlier days at my nursery. This one particular day, they just had a bunch of different musical instruments just lying out on the tables, on the sides and whatnot. And I remember grabbing to what was it? It was these hand cymbals. I just remember gravitating towards them because, you know, you see drum kits being loud, and I don't know, I was obsessed with loud things as a kid. So I just remember picking them up and just marching around, you know, with these two cymbals, just making a whole bag of noise, people holding their hands stuck in their heads and whatnot. And I remember being swapped out by one of the teachers or whatever for a little percussion thing that I don't remember what it was. But that was just one of those moments where I was I was just fascinated by sound and just what it could do. So yeah, you've got that, but also my sister, you know, growing up around her, she would always have whatever she was doing, we'd be in the front room and she'd have MTV Bass running, or Channel U, or Channel AKA, you know, infamous outlets for watching all the latest music videos and stuff like that. So got to see a lot of those things in real time. So, you know, even if it was things I wasn't supposed to be seeing, like all of those Eminem music videos and all of that, like I grew up on a lot of it and saw all of it. So for me, it was just a melting pot of just different sounds and different influences, just different family members. And better yet, you know, because I found myself, I happened to be in a family that was passionate about music, you know, had an eclectic palette, you know, from my mom listening, you know, whether it be in the kitchen or whether she be cooking or getting ready to head out somewhere, you'll hear everything from like current hip-hop to golden age to reggae to even jungle and drum and bass sometimes, to funk to soul to jazz to R&B to gospel. Like you would hear everything, a bit of neo soul as well. Pretty much the same with my uncle. My auntie taught me a lot about 90s hip-hop, people like Tupac. That was the first time I found out about him. You know, I remember watching a home movie and they had a clip of Changes, and I just remember her asking her to rewind it again and again and again. I just remember that blowing my mind as a kid. My nan with a lot of sort of quiet storm R&B, and then also people like Hot Chocolate, just a lot of more chill and laid back type of sounds. And then my granddad with all of the Motown stuff from the Commodores, the Temptations, David Ruffin, Diana Ross, but then also hip hop. You know, it was being in the car with him, you know, listening to all this stuff, you know, that was put onto the Fugees, the Score album to be exact, and that just fucking me up for like a better words. You know, I remember I had the poster up on my wall when I was like 7 years old, and I was thinking I was hot shit and all of that. Like it was a fun memory actually. But yeah, that's just, yes, I've just always had different people to bounce off of, just hear different things, you know. Very passionate about dance as well, my family. It transpires. I remember one time we were at Sunday dinner at my grandparents, and one of my granddad's friends had a box set CD. It had about maybe 4 or 5 CDs, but the box set compilation was called Afro Latin Party, and at the time a lot of like my immediate family members were doing salsa dancing on the weekend, or just as a hobby really. So I remember him making like pirate copies of the CD and giving out to family members. So there wasn't a single family member whose house I went out to and they wouldn't be playing the CD or what have you. So I was just surrounded by that all the time. So the music thing was heavy, the dance thing was heavy. A lot of the people who in my family who went on to do just fairly well, just in domestic careers, actually wanted to have a music career themselves. You know, my granddad, for instance, I remember him telling me that his original like career choice was like a radio engineer or sound engineer. My uncle was in a band with his like closest friends back in the day, playing keyboards and singing. And his works in his thing is well, last time I checked, at least it was in cybersecurity and IT development. And another family member who's a lawyer originally got into law so he could start a record label. So having these family members who had successful careers otherwise, but always had music at heart as their core mission, inspired me more to want to be the one person in the family who actually set out to have a lifelong career with this thing called music. Unfortunately, I had people close to me to be able to not necessarily facilitate that, but to learn from. One of them being my late great uncle Chris, who's a jazz guitarist. He was in a band called the Aqua Vita Show Band. It was led by a guy called Mana Zeke, and he had a slot on a radio station on the BBC, one of the radio channels. I couldn't tell you which one. It might have been BBC Radio 6, but either way, through that experience, he was able to play. He was able to play on a house band on TV. He was able to play on cruise ships, and got to meet and play behind some famous places, spaces, whatever. One of them, I remember him telling me, was for the Princess of Monaco. And in that one event, he was able to meet and play with Sting and Ella Fitzgerald, who were both, in Ella Fitzgerald's case, were still around at the time. Just got to, that I always found, very inspiring. How somebody who came from a very humble background could find himself in that situation, doing something he loves, meeting all of these people, and just again, taking people away from whatever may be going on in their life just to bring them joy in that moment. And he got me really passionate about the music, the pioneers, the history of what we have today, looking at jazz and people like Charlie Parker and Miles Davis and John Coltrane with giant steps, and actually understanding what's going on within the music. So in many ways, he was the best music teacher I ever had and the best music teacher I never had, because I don't think any of the training or formal musical learning experience that I had at school could overpower what I've learned just from him, and just him being a catalyst for me to just go out and do things, as opposed to waiting for when it comes up to a much, or waiting till the moment that is necessary. And led me to here, and my own personal journey, at least, I want to say, started when I was about 13 or 14. I was struggling a little bit with some things. Not even a little bit. I won't underestimate it. I was struggling at school, and at the time, school was a significant outlet for me because there were some things going on at home. So for me, it was if school was a significant outlet of mine, then I was given a harsh reality check by how hard some of the tests and exams have become. And at home, I'm not necessarily settled. Where do I go from that? And for me, that thing was just music. As soon as I found out from friends that we had access to the music block, just to jam or just to practice or whatever, I used to religiously, I'd be in there religiously before, during, or after school, whether it be in the Mac labs, just writing music, making beats or recording my own songs, or in the live room, just trying things, you know, trying out different rhythms on the drum kit, replicating the beats of tracks that I loved and heard from hip hop or whatever genre it be, just to see what I could do with it. It's funny actually because the guy behind the camera already kind of knows the answer. But either way, it's a very interesting story, so I'll enlighten you. So my whole thing was, I was sworn in on the fact that my stage name as an artist was going to be, kind of my nickname around the town I grew up, which has always been KB. I was sworn in on the fact that, okay, it's going to be KB, that's going to be my stage name. And I was humbled very quickly when I took a look on Spotify and realized there's like 100,000 KBs. I remember one of them was like a gospel rapper or some shit. So I was like, yeah, man, I need to stand out a little bit more. And I remember speaking to my guy Rashawn behind the camera. This whole shit is this. I remember speaking to him, it's like, what should I call myself? And he suggested the name Koncxpt. And I won't lie to you, I heard it at first. It's like, Koncxpt? Like, what? I didn't really think much of it at all. But then I really deeped it, but then I really looked into it and, really sort of tried to tap into what it could mean to other people that I'm inspired by and how they see concepts. And it kind of made sense. I remember there's a drummer called Bernard Pretty Birdie. He's one of the most recorded drummers of all time. He has a book called Let the Drums Speak. And I remember there was a quote that he had in that book. I don't want to misquote it, but it was something to the capacity of, music. He was basically saying that he doesn't see music by means of style or genre, more so than a concept, something that can, something that can be manipulated into something personal and borrowed from different influences. And that was always kind of the way I saw different music. Well, to be honest with you, this isn't the first time I've done this. It's a couple of times I've worked on projects, like mixtapes and EPs that I've work for myself, just to get my name there and share what I've been working on and maybe some goals at the time. But I feel like a lot of those things are just momentary. Like I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like most artists would agree where they just have a sudden burst of inspiration and they're not really feeling what they felt in that moment anymore, so you don't really persevere with a project or a song or whatever it may be. You just kind of needed it to happen in that space of time. And that's kind of what happened with this project called Record Store. It was meant to be a EP. Sort of started out in late December of 2022, and just compiled of different, basically songs compiled from different like styles, genres, and influences. And embodying it with different stories, kind of like what you find when you to go to the record store and just be cycling through these different albums and EPs and LPs, 12 inches and 45 inches from your favorite artists. I kind of intended it to be that, but those things I didn't really feel in the moment, and I just kind of wanted to again just diversify and just be free of having to work towards a project. I feel like one thing I've learned is at this stage as an artist, I feel like you should just be open to just working with different people and creating, as opposed to just focusing solely on releasing an album, because that way A, you can have more fun with it, and B, in that moment you can just cater to whether it be that song in the moment and then really share it with the world. You're more inclined to do it that way as opposed to if it was just solely meant for a project, so I feel like that's my new calling. As an artist, my plan is over the next few months, I'm going to be locking in the studio. I've got a few projects I have in mind, working on with different people as well as my own stuff. And September is going to be rolling out singles and sharing it with the world again. That's the main thing I can say at the minute.
Well, I asked a question. thus far, I feel like I would say, actually, no, I'd definitely say the beat instrument to this brings me more joy, but I don't think I would have been able to arrive in that conclusion had it not been before production. And I say that because my journey, because I'm primarily a drummer with regards to like the instruments I play, I would consider myself a small drummer. My passion and connection, what have you, to that sort of instrument kind of comes out of from a trial and error phase of me being 14, 15 and just replicating the beats that I loved. But that was inspired by me as a producer, watching things like Massive Phil, watching things like Living with L.E.P., that series, and seeing them in the Fudge Monk replicate the beats to the Funky Drummer or God May Be Funky or This New Day like the Skull Steps. That's kind of where that journey started. So if you want all that, I don't think I would have been as engaged as Mr. Into this, because before that, there was less silent violin. I wasn't passionate about it, but you know, that kind of brought it back. Just since then, I just did all the search just to see what I could do with different instruments. And I'd say I've been walking into that lately. Just the energy that you get from just being on stage or being out there, you're playing with people that you love, or just being able to share music in real time with an audience as you're there on the turntable. You're really pushing it, like, you know, putting your full energy into that craft. It's a feeling that I can't describe, but once you do it, like, you just never get enough of it. As a producer, you know, when I was younger, because I sort of started playing instruments and producing around the same time. When I was younger, I did. I think I would say I was more into it back then, just because, you know, yeah, again, the trial and error thing, but just trying out different digital audio workstations, messing around with different sounds. But just with music, I'm just somebody who likes to be more interactive and active in the process of it. So I couldn't be locked in on a computer screen making beats, or just working through Logic, for instance, for a long period of time, or working with my friend the glass in the studio. I'm that guy that just wants to get in there and get involved in it, what's happening. So that's why at this stage, I think I would say I prefer to be instrumentalist. Well, honestly, you know, we've got all these records behind me. I think it's better that I show you rather than just stare at you camera and say it. So let's take a look.
Alright, cool. Well, I guess it's a good starting place. Oh wow, both of them back. No, I think all three of them there. Look at that. Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad. Needless to say, Michael Jackson's definitely a big influence of mine. I was just always inspired. Like, I think he even said himself, there was always a certain magic. Like, every time he created, he always, you know, when he'd get into the studio with, whether it be Quincy Jones or Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis or Dallas Austin, Teddy Riley, Darkchild, L.A. Reid, Babyface, all of these people, there was always a certain magic they wanted to elicit out of these sessions, and you could just see it in that work, and that was always something I found very inspiring to me. Just the dedication to the craft on the whole. I mean, like creating Thriller, for instance, you know, this is an album I looked into a lot when, it's always been one of my personal favorites, but when I was at music school, creative arts school, when I was there and I was looking into music production, this was an album I studied like deeply, especially for the engineer Bruce Swedien, who came up with a thing called the acusonic recording process, basically just looking to extract the natural sounds of musical properties. So you've got a drum kit. To really get the effect of that drum kit, you put a drum cover over the drum kit, just to really make it pop. He would put the drum kit over a raised platform just to isolate the sound, just little things. So just having quality audio tones, and then also having a very musical album, having a lot of the top arrangers, session musicians be a part of the project, and then having somebody like Quincy Jones to put it all together, who I'll be coming back to shortly. Just seeing just that drive to really go for what you set out to do, because you had a goal for Thriller to be a big smash hit. The following album, Bad, he drowned his wall 100 million albums. Like, he just always strived for greatness, strived to be a better person, and didn't really let anything hold him back, and yeah, his sole ambition was not only to make the world a better place, but to bring people together with music. And I don't think there's anybody who's had that same impact through music since him. So he's always been a massive inspiration of mine. On the topic of Michael Jackson, well, we've got this example right here. I know it isn't exactly a Quincy Jones record, but it's Give Me the Night by George Benson. And if you see there, you got a Quest record. Okay, I'll have to ask a bit more. You got a Quest. Oh, wait, what? Cool. So here we got Give Me the Night by George Benson, written by Rod Temperton. And if you see in this little area here, you got Quest Records, Quincy Jones Productions. So produced by Quincy Jones, a massive influence of mine. If you haven't read his book, the autobiography, Q, the autobiography, I think it's called, I highly recommend it. That was just somebody, just their musical journey, I just always found it amazing. Like, they've been through so many life experiences, but also so many experiences as a musician, working with somebody pioneering bebop players, playing in Birdland, working with Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Dizzy Gillespie, being the musical director for his voyages out into Europe and Egypt. I said Europe like it's a country. Anyway, fuck it, let me just continue. And then also still being able to work with Michael Jackson, Shaka Khan, George Benson, Frank Sinatra, just to strive to never be boxed in, really. I found that inspiring. And then let me try and see if I've got this last one. Let me see, do I have it? Oh, just a random pointer. This was the album I was playing in the car earlier. So Where Are You Now by Loose Ends. Highly recommend it. Just good for relaxing. I mean, it's just a good album in general, in my opinion. Another massive influence of mine, Tribe Called Quest. This guy laughing behind the camera, but really and truly, this is the Check the Rhyme record. Obviously, these guys are appreciated in the hip hop community, but I don't feel like people realize how deep their influence is. For real. Yeah, I don't think people really realize, like, these guys are almost like the nucleus for a lot of people that we have today. Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar, even people like Terrace Martin and Robert Glasper on the jazz side of things, like Jay Dilla. Who?
Badass, bro.
Joey Badass, yeah, true as well. J. Cole, like, there's so many people who kind of spawned from, of course, just in my mind, like Mos Def as well. There's so many Questlove, like, see, the name's just flooding black. Like, so many people who kind of spawned from this whole movement, not just tribe, but also people like De La Soul in like the native tongues. And I feel like people need to really give them their flowers more than and they're a massive influence of mine, to say the least. And then following right behind it, following that, Songs of the Key of Life, Stevie Wonder. This is probably, people ask me a lot, what my favorite single is, my favorite song, my favorite album. My favorite song, I never seem to be able to answer, but favorite album, if I were to point you to one album, if I was on a desert island, I was trapped, I could only have one piece of music, it would be this, Songs in the Key of Life. I feel like it's perfect because it's very few projects that you listen to or you see in this day and age or ever where there's a song for every moment in life. And those are the artists that tend to inspire me. They have a song where you can listen to that artist in any mood. And this album, from top to bottom, just really embodies so many different styles and genres and ethnicities. Like, there's a song where he's singing in Zulu and Spanish and English in the same song. There's a song called Black Man, which he refers to the significance of what the Native Americans or the Indians have done, what the black people have done, what every ethnicity has done for mankind. I feel like this is just a very important album, and it's also an integral influence for a lot of the pioneering musicians, not only of our time but of all time. This is one of Michael Jackson's favorite albums. This was Prince's favorite album, or one of his favorite albums. George Michael's favorite album. Elton John, whenever he travels, he supposedly carries a copy of this in his suitcase wherever he goes to share with people. Like, it just has that influence. And this was released in 1977, so nearly 50 years later, it's still able to stand the test of time and have that impact. But yeah, love this album. Another influence of mine, Herbie Hancock. This isn't planned, by the way. This is just all by coincidence. I have all of my influences lined one after another, but this is Thrust by Herbie Hancock. Very fusion based. You got tracks like Butterfly and Actual Proof. So this is really when Herbie started tapping into like the fusion side of things. A lot of the funk, a lot of those influences. A derivative of Miles when he started experimenting in projects like Bitches Brew, for instance. And rightfully so, because he came from one of his quartets in like the 60s. So yeah, I've always loved the way that Herbie, again, kind of like Quincy, and I guess like Stevie as well, just didn't want to be pigeonholed into being this one thing. Stevie didn't want to be little Stevie Wonder for his whole life, and wanted to branch out and make something of his own, and just create the music on his mind. Coincidentally, Quincy Jones didn't want to be just a jazz artist or just a jazz trumpeter, which is why he went into conducting. That's why he went into film scoring, doing things like The Italian Job and In the Heat of the Night, the film with Sidney Poitier. And Herbie, similar thing. He didn't want to be that guy who was just playing straight up traditional jazz. He wanted all of these other influences from rock, from soul, from hip hop even, to flow into his music and create something new. And that's the thing, he's always looking for something new, and I feel like he really showed that in the Thrust project with the band that he had, and still does to this day. So yeah, another influence of mine. Let's see what else we got. I'll just throw it out there. My favorite Jay-Z song, Girls, Girls, Girls. I feel like these people worth mentioning. Earth, Wind and Fire, again tapping into range, diversity, just wanting to tap into so many different influences and embody it to create something special. And this Spirit album definitely represents that. Speaking of something special, Miles Davis, Kinda Blue. This is probably the most well-known jazz album. I mean, my personal opinion, probably the most well-renowned jazz album of all time. Kinda Blue. You got a song So What, Freddie Freeloader, Blue and Green, All Blues. This actually happens to be an original copy from 1959. I won't tell you how much I spent on it, but either way, I have it as a part of my collection. I have played it a few times, and yeah, I think the common theme for me here is people who really inspire me are people who branch out, people who just don't copy a formula. They're always pushing to do something new and always pushing to do better, whilst being a pioneer at the same time. And I feel like Miles Davis, needless to say, really embodies that, because 20 years later from this, he's working on an album with, or possibly even 30 years later, he's working on an album with Easy Mo B, a hip-hop producer, the guy who's worked with Tupac and Biggie, making a jazz album, a jazz hip-hop album. He's also working with people like Marcus Miller and George Duke with like a go-go inspired album a few years before, only a few years before. So just always constantly changing, kind of like music itself. Music is continuous and constantly changing, and people who embody that are the people who thrive and will be remembered. And That's why I've always looked up to Miles. I feel like that's it. I'm gonna try and see if I can find one more record, because there's one person I simply cannot leave out. It might be underneath my clothing rack, so we can take a look there. Yeah, let's have a look under the rack, because these actually aren't all my records. Alright, cool. Alright, move this. I think this is my new rug that I'm gonna put in my room when it's all done. Move that over there for a sec. And under here, look, got more records. My little acoustic guitar hiding in there as well. It's definitely gotta be in here. Right. Cypher through all these. See, I'll be towards the back. Oh, well, that was the Quincy Jones record, but we're after something else. Where is it? Where is it?
Digital Planet.
Digital Planet.
Wait, what's this one?
What you thinking of?
This one. No, not this one.
Digital Underground. Oh, Diggable Planets.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't have it on vinyl. What was you thinking? Oh, what was it? Was you thinking it was this? This. No, Players Association.
Around the rim, isn't it?
Nah, I hear you. I will tell you something interesting about this album. Dilla, which track was it again? More Than a Little Bit. It's a standout song itself, like it's a really cool song. But there was a beat tape that was released, I want to say it was 2015, 2016, you know, from J Dilla's archive, and he sampled the hell out of that track. It's like track 1073, I'm terrible with numbers, it's something like that. And it's on, I think it's the Motor City beat tape, or one of them, but either way, I highly recommend it. When I find it, I'll put it in the bio, and then you can go listen for yourself. Oh, might as well refer to this as well. Another incredibly underrated album with regards to hip hop and regards to like music history. Tonto's Expanding Headband, touching on Stevie Wonder earlier, a big influence of mine when he was branching away from, you know, being little Stevie Wonder and, you know, having that identity attached to him. He had heard Tonto's Expanding Headband. You know, it was a duo of producers and synth operators, I guess you could say. You know what they were synth programmers, that's the better word for it. Two people, Malcolm Cecil and Malcolm Cecil and Robert Margouleff. He has since passed away, God rest his soul. He was British American, and they both came together to create this monster, which was Tonto. Didn't have any oscillators, so the sounds were just sort of moving on a whim. You know, with a normal keyboard, you know, the sound is pretty much constant. What you set it to do, it will just do. And Tonto didn't do that, which I guess is part of the appeal of it. You know, it was so mind-boggling enough that, you know, it caught the attention of Stevie Wonder, who had walked into their studio in New York with this album under his arm and was like, you know, I want to work with you. And, you know, following that is, you know, well, following that are albums like Talking Book, albums like I've just seen it, where has it gone, albums like Inner Visions, you know. And then also this was a go-to record for another go-to record for J Dilla. The track, it was a Busta Rhymes tune, Turn Me Up Some, sampled a track from this, so that's pretty cool. Now let's find this record that I'm after. The integral influence of mine. One of the many influences of mine. I hope it's in here. There we go. Well, which one would be better though? There's actually a few. You got this is single of 1999. You got Purple Rain. He's got The Look. And this is a Prince bootleg I managed to find. Don't Send Me to Jail. Bat Dance. I know you rate that one. And then Thieves in the Temple. But I feel like this one, I don't know, this one to me is just, I don't know, there's just something about it. But yeah, this guy, this little fella here, yeah, he kind of inspired the course of my life in many ways. I won't lie to you, I didn't really know too much about Prince from when I was younger, because I was so into, you know, there was always that competition. It was kind of before my time, but it's always still never failed to be a thing in our society of, you know, who was the better entertainer out of the two, Michael Jackson versus Prince. You know, people always ask me to pick sides. Like, I swear, you know, it was as recent as maybe like a few months ago, or probably longer than that. We were out somewhere and people were asking, you know, you gotta pick one, who you choosing? And I just simply can't, but because both of them have just been equal influences to me, but Prince definitely inspired.
Secondary school, we actually had like a whole turf war about it.
Well, you know, it goes to show like it's a whole thing. But you know, I think it's because they both, obviously they came up at the same time and they both had these iconic moments very close to each other. Obviously Michael Jackson with Thriller, and then Prince with Purple Rain, you know, the movie, and then the soundtrack that accompanied it. And you know, they were both very eccentric and very, yeah, just very out of the norm. And you know, we never seen nothing like this before. So ever since then, people were just kind of, you know, decided to pit these two together. I feel like some people may have drawn their conclusions from the infamous James Brown video. For those who don't know, there's a video online at a James Brown concert. I want to say it's in 1982. So this is sort of around the time that Prince had released 1999. Coming up to that time period at least, and James Brown is on there performing It's a Man's World. I think that's the official title, but everybody just calls it It's a Man's World. And Michael Jackson is in the audience, and he's like, you know, Michael, you gotta come up and say something. And then he comes up and, you know, he's doing these little runs, and then he's dancing all over the stage, he's moonwalking, and then allegedly it was to spite him in front of the audience, but he was like, you know, he was whispering to James Brown, you know, Prince is in the audience, get him on stage. So then he gets Prince on stage. He hops on guitar, he's doing a little like rhythm thing, it ain't really working out, there was like an issue with it or whatever. And then it was like a prop, it was like a lamppost or something, and then he's trying to, you know how Prince is like, I don't know, he's got his guitar and he'll try and like grind on it. He was trying to do that with the pole and like fell down into the audience, so they had to help him. So he made a bit of a tit of himself. So I feel like based off of that, some people say, oh, Michael Jackson won, but Prince is just, yeah, he just couldn't keep up. But either way, that's besides the point. Yeah, for me, I was just so inspired by Michael Jackson as a person, as an artist, all of that, just that energy of who he was. Like a lot of the core, like most people, let alone like the fans, that I never really ventured into Prince. I knew a few of the songs. Obviously I knew Purple Rain because that was, you know, that was a massive hit. I knew 1999, the single, which happens to be, you know, what this is. And then I knew some of the early stuff, you know, I Want to Be Your Lover and Bambi and I Feel For You, because, you know, I'd be hearing it around the house, whether it be my mom playing it or my stepdad playing it. I didn't really know, oh, Nothing Compares to You, I knew that song. And then I remember as well, when I first got my iPod, I think I was about 7 years old, I got an iPod Nano, and I just had like a miscellany of just different songs from like anything you could imagine from old to new. And I remember there was a couple of Prince songs, and Diamonds and Pearls and Money Don't Matter two nights stood out to me. But other than that, I didn't really know too much about Prince. If anything, I thought he was just a Michael Jackson copycat. I won't lie to you. But it wasn't until, and also I won't even lie to you. At that point in time, it was kind of hard to really connect with Prince and really know all that much, because he had that infamous lifelong battle with his record label, or just labels in general, and talking about ownership and masters. That he didn't have his music on streaming platforms until like later on, unless they were paying him a fair rate and what have you. Obviously, they gave him Warner Brothers gave him his masters back not too long before he passed away. But yeah, so it was kind of hard to access it. YouTube videos from unauthorized accounts would be taken down, so it was kind of hard to really connect with him as an artist, or listen to his music really, unless you bought it in physical form like this. So you couldn't really. Whereas in contrast, Michael Jackson was everywhere. But it was around the time that he passed away, which was 2016. And slowly but surely, as part of his legacy, his music was being rolled out into the public again, whether it be in record stores, music stores. I just said the same thing twice. Fuck it. Or you'd be on your streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify. Slowly but surely, his iconic music was being rolled back onto these platforms. So there was a compilation album called, what was it, Prince Forever, Prince for Life, or something like that. And then some of the original promo releases that had been put out by Warner Brothers in the early days were starting to be put out as singles, as well as the albums. They were doing it gradually. So I started listening to things like, I Want to Be Your Lover and Feel For You, and the second album, the self-titled Prince album, and then also some of the stuff that came later on in the 80s, like the Sign of the Times project, and then the Diamonds and Pearls album, and I was just exposed to this world of just of just his not even his archive, his discography that I'd otherwise been guarded from because of his legal disputes, and just listening to the backstories of how this one guy played all of the instruments, which is why on the back of the record, saying produced, arranged, composed, and performed by Prince. He did everything. He played, obviously he had his bands backing him, Revolution, MPG, all of that, but originally, and for the most part, when he wanted to just create, it was always him on the drums, on the keys, on the bass, on the guitar, anything else you could imagine. And I was just always inspired by his he was a pioneer for the self-sufficient musician and the independent in many ways, just playing all the instruments. He was somebody who could engineer himself, just work the mixer, work the control desk, go behind the booth and actually record. He was somebody who wrote and produced and directed films. Somebody who really pushed for artists to be emancipated, owning your music and reaping the benefits of the art that you create. And I always felt that was really important. But for me, it was more so as a musician at the time, and just him having no boundaries with regards to the music he wanted to make, wanted to play, and also how he created it. So I was just inspired furtherly, in addition to seeing the YouTube videos I was watching, just to try things with instruments, because I feel like that's how things kind of came with him. He had spoken about in previous interviews, he'd learned the drums literally just by listening to records and playing with boxes, these little cardboard boxes that he'd make into a drum kit. The piano, it would literally just be him, watching his father, who was a jazz pianist, or replicating, the theme songs to Batman or The Man from U.N.C.L.E., those things that he loved. Literally just doing it out for the passion, and then it evolving naturally from that. In fact, that's kind of the case for a lot of people, that I look up to. There's a drummer by the name of Jeff Porcaro, who was in a band called Toto, and that was his thing. He literally just learned to play as phenomenally as he did. Sadly, he's no longer with us. he learned to play as phenomenally as he did just by listening to records, you know. And that's all it takes, that passion. And just seeing how he applied it to himself and shared it with the world was very inspiring to me. So I couldn't go without mentioning Prince in this interview. So Prince 1999, A-side 1999, B-side Lil Red Corvette. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers the people that have inspired me on this journey. I would say it's actually been going, I'd say surprisingly well, to be honest. It didn't come without the fear of me having to confront the fact that I wanted to pursue a career in the creative arts, let alone music. Basically, it came about towards the back end of when I finished sixth form. Honestly, it weren't really the best few years of my life. I wasn't really happy with the subjects that I was doing. You know, there were some things going on in my personal life, some things going on at home. But I feel like the fact that I wasn't tapping into my full potential because I wasn't doing anything that I enjoyed or really cared for. I was just kind of letting myself down. So by God's grace, I was in a position where I could do well, where I did well, and I had some choices. You know, I could go down the conventional route of pursuing just formal education, or I could do something I loved. And it was at that point that I decided, you know, just to tell my family members that I wanted to pursue a career in music and I wanted to study music. Basically what it was. And yeah, everybody was nothing but supportive of me, and I thought it was gonna be like the polar opposite. I thought I was gonna get like chastised. It's like, how could you do this to like all of that? But nah, it was quite the opposite actually. You know, they were interested just to see, because funny enough, in spite of being surrounded by it and whatever, I never really spoke about my passion for music to my family members until then. I'd just been always working on it in the sidelines, in the background, kind of like some Spider-Man Peter Parker shit, until like the moment arose where it's like, okay, wow, I didn't realize this. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just never really spoke about it. And yeah, they were always like, you know, regardless of what anybody will tell you about pursuing a conventional career path, as long as you enjoy what you do and you're happy, that's what matters. And when I spoke about it to my mum, she's honestly, she you know, she felt no two ways about me pursuing music as she would have done me pursuing law or anything of that nature, because she never really pushed me to have something definitively set out for my career, because life changes all the time. You know, we think we want to do something and then, you know, turns it on its head and decides, oh no, we love something else. You know, I always say to people, for everything we think we know nothing at all. So she never really pushed me like some parents were pushing their kids to, you know, be those doctors, be those lawyers, be those people working in finance, those people as engineers. I never had that. One thing she always said to me is just to never sell myself short or cut myself short of any opportunity that comes my way. So as long as I wasn't doing that, she was happy for me to pursue whatever career I wanted to choose within my life. And that was the blessing I needed, and I got my family's blessing, thankfully. If anything, it was kind of the opposite at times. You know, you would think that, you know, the family is going to be the one to bat an eyelid, but your friends are going to be the ones to embrace you in your career paths. But unfortunately, I found out that's not always the case. You know, people just see certain things a certain way, and chances are they're probably just gonna stick through with it. Some people change, some people don't, and that's acceptable. But yeah, that's what I found out in that process. I remember, you know, when I was, you know, I don't know the fact, okay, this is me doing music, going to uni to study at creative arts school and all of that. I remember one of my friends, irregardless of always being very supportive of my musical endeavors, he was just so focused on the idea of a career, just like, you know, how are you gonna get a job with that type of thing when that isn't at my forefront. Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking differently with regards to the ambitions that I have for myself. My end goal isn't a job in like the industry as it is for some people. I didn't see the university experience as a facilitator for me to just do something I loved and then just go into the industry afterwards, as it is for most people. And if that is the case, that's fine, because that's kind of what that's just what most people do, but I just wanted to use the time and the facilities and the resources at that space to maximize everything I can to get, to make the most of my potential as an artist, as a creative, as a musician, whatever it was. But when you pursue creative arts, some people tend not to get it, unfortunately. It seems to have been a common thing. It's like that in general society, I think, but it just seems to be a common thing from around our way. I actually wrote about it not too long before I left university. I wrote a track called The Field Mentality. I think I was about 19 years old, and I hope to share it with you guys very soon. So somewhere down the line or what have you, because I feel like it's something that could weigh up and just to give you insight into kind of what was going on and what still might be the case for people really wanted to pursue things in the creative arts. But basically it was just detailing the people I went to school with, or just the people around me who were so kind of indoctrinated by this whole idea of going through the school system to do well, to go to university, to get a job, and you stick through that job until late 60s or possibly even close to 70s, the way it's looking now with retirement and things of that nature, and that's your life sorted. Some people just I wouldn't say accepted fate, because I feel like that's almost too deep, but almost as if they just accepted, okay, this is gonna be their life, just work, whether it's working check to check or just clocking in at the office each day just to make money, and then maybe buy a house to pay off the mortgage, and then making enough to pay off all of the student loans and start a family and all of those type of things. They didn't really feel, or they didn't really think too far outside of the box, or feel that they could, so they were kind of pigeonholed into that thing, and they just felt in some ways that there were some things that in life that other people get that just weren't meant for us. They'll see, you'll be walking past these real estate agents on the streets of town or wherever it be, and you see these massive mansions on the other side of Enfield, almost on the way to the country, some of the houses in the country, and they'll never see that as a possibility. We'll be looking at these massive yards on computers in IT class at school, but just won't see it. It just doesn't strike them as something that's attainable because of the cost. Having a brand new car when you've only recently started driving, going to Russell Group University, let alone Oxbridge, for instance. These things are, to some people, just seem like attainables that aren't possible for people that look like you and I, or people that come from where we come from, type of thing. And I just was reluctant to accept that, Message to the next generation. There are two things that seem to spring to mind for me. The first will be to choose your peers carefully as you grow, as you evolve, as you develop within the creative industry and as a person as well. Over time, you'll just start to realize that not everybody has your best interests at heart, unfortunately. Some people appreciate you for what you can do for them as opposed to what you mean to them or what you're really supposed to mean to them. Yeah, just to surround yourself with like-minded individuals who share similar passions or have a similar drive to attain something that maybe people outside of that circle would consider to be unattainable. Essentially, people whose dreams aren't bound by the confines of having to be realistic in the times that we live today.
My second message to the next generation would be that it's never too early and it's never too late either. I myself am guilty of looking back on my journey in this music industry and just in general, just thinking, oh, if I had done this sooner, like I could have been able to do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. Everybody kind of has that would have, should have, could have moment in retrospect, but for all the time that you tend to spend reflecting on what you could have done and what you wish the journey had looked like, these are things that could be rectified in due time, in the time, or even in the time that you have now, essentially. So for me, one thing I've learned is not to spend wasted moments thinking about what could have been or how things should have been, and to just use the time that you have now, just doing it, whether it be practicing something that you wish to practice before, or learning a piece of repertoire or a different style, or learning from a certain individual that you probably otherwise wouldn't have done. And just do it. And that doesn't just apply to music, that just applies to anything in life, honestly. Which touches on the fact, it really and truly never is too late.